Hello, friends, and welcome to the space where we discuss business, landscaping, beer, and everything in between. I'm your host, Heather Gerard from My Landscape Artist here in London, Ontario, Canada. And this is Season 2 of Hops and Hedges. Stay tuned after each episode for a message from our sponsor, ext.tech. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now crack open a cold one, and let's dig in. And here we are. With me today on the show is Danée Marie Lambourne, all the way from British Columbia. Danée, how are you?
I'm fantastic because the sun is out and shining, which is a nice change.
Okay, so it may be sunny and shining there, but we had this beautiful thing in southwestern Ontario we sometimes get. That's a combination of snow and rain.
Ugh,
So yeah, it was less awesome
that's
than
actually how it
sunshine.
snows here all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Although we haven't seen any, and I don't know that we will. So it might be sunny and snowy.
you're rubbing salt in the wound today. Salt in the wound.
It's a crisp, maybe -3 right now, which is the lowest that we've felt. So
Okay. And I
yeah.
think we got as high as +2 today. So there you go. Not too bad. So for those who are tuning in and who aren't familiar with your incredible work and all the things that you're doing, can you give our listeners just a quick little lowdown of who you are and what do you do?
Okay, quick. I run a company here called Eden Projects, and we are kind of a small, some people don't like to say boutique, but I quite like it. We're sort of a bespoke landscape design and construction firm. So we don't actually house any of our internal laborers. We do all of our planting, and we hold on to our planting quite heavily, but the rest of it, we lean into our local trades and support network. So we're basically a general contractor, and we design to build. So we do design for others, especially for sort of multi-residentials in certain areas of the island.
Mhm.
And we design for anybody. It's not just island based. So we're in Victoria, south end of the island, but we design up and down all of the island, as well as we have some islands off the coast here. But like I said, we kind of will go anywhere. We're
Very
quite,
cool.
quite happy to touch anywhere we can for any passionate gardener.
And it's hard for me to imagine, because I do something similar, because as you know, my business is very similar where it's project management. I broker out, I work with local trades and whatnot, but I am not on an island. Like I can't,
Right,
my brain cannot wrap around what you must have to do in order to do what you do on Vancouver
right.
Island. Like,
It is complicated. It does really exhaust budgets quickly.
yeah,
And there's sort of a level of, I don't want to insult any of my local trades, but there's a little bit of a complacency based on, this is what you get.
right.
Um, so because the competition is a little bit lower. But, on the same, strain, like there's a lot of pride. And people work really, really hard to build their name here.
Hmm.
Materials are incredibly impossible. I know you've heard me say more times than I can count when I come to LO every year, that at the Congress, I see more materials than I'd like to because I can't get them. So it doesn't mean I can't. It just means our clients have to pay a lot more. So that's
Right.
the
And I
competition
know
is the
definitely one of your strengths is the connection that you have with your trades because you've been doing this for a while now. So
Mhm.
like Eden Projects, I think you started it in 2015. Is that correct? Am I
Yeah,
reading that right?
so we had sort of two branches. So we started the brand as Inventing Eden Landscapes. And then at one point, I decided that I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't sort of alienating, the demographic that is the developers. And I wanted to have kind of a more accessible brand. So we changed it to Eden Projects, which allowed me to, go into, structural design and different avenues a little bit and sort of just be a bigger player and connect the community as a whole. So we changed that over. So we're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary. It's pretty exciting.
That is so cool. Big
Yeah.
congrats. And I know
Thanks.
not everybody can see the video, but behind you I see a little tail wagging. So who's that?
Oh, yeah. And there's a chance that they might ring the alarm when my husband gets home, but I have two dogs. I've got two Aussies. One's Nova, she's 4, and she's a blue merle, and the other one is Bauer. And he may put his head up because he likes to have all the attention. So we'll see
Oh,
them.
don't they? It's too cute, too cute.
Yeah, they are.
And so for like here in Ontario, I know you're definitely a familiar face around Landscape Ontario events. You've spoken at a number of different conventions and congress and whatnot. I think I actually saw you for the first time. I want to say it was last year, but it might have been the year before at the designers
Year
conference.
before. I was supposed to come last year, but my husband
Okay.
said he really needed hip surgery, so I had to cancel.
Oh, yeah, one of those
Yeah.
husbands, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
love him. Yeah.
love them. I have one of those too.
I thought he was going to be fine on his own, and then I realized he
He'd
may.
prefer you to be there. Yeah. Aw.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we
Um,
did. That was 2 years ago,
wow.
and you and I hit it off right away. We have the same energy and enthusiasm, and
Well, and that talk, I don't know for anybody who's listening who was there, there was a abnormal amount of technical issues from the
yeah,
audiovisual company.
yeah.
And considering it was the first time I saw you, you took it with such grace. And you were just like, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm not an audiovisual person, but I still have something to share. And if you can't see the picture, just use your imagination. Like you
Right.
just went with it. And
We were
I
talking
really
about
love
the
that about it.
pivot. Yeah,
Pivot,
we were talking about the pivot, right?
right?
What better opportunity? It's almost like I planned it.
Things happen. And especially as a project manager, it really just showed that, you know what, sometimes things happen, but
Yeah,
you're gonna get the job done. And I was really impressed by that. So I'm so glad that since then we've had to manage to kind of connect a little bit more.
absolutely.
Um,
Thank
so
you.
for people listening, and because you are a familiar face, I'm curious if you could share kind of your origin story. I sometimes refer to us as horticultural heroes on the podcast. And like superheroes, I feel like we all have an origin story. And usually we didn't wake up one day and decide we're going to get into the landscaping industry or in profession. So what was it for you? Like, how early on did you be like, man, I got to work in nature? Like,
Right. I mean, it was forced on me when I was a child. So
okay.
my parents were really big into growing their own food. My father came from sort of middle Canada. He was one of 8 kids. He was the second oldest, and the family, the elders, bought a large piece of property, and so it was a farm, and so they each ran that, and so it was just sort of in his blood. And so when I was growing up, we grew up in the Fraser Valley, and we had a really like quite a big patch of garden. So between ornamental gardening and food production gardening, we had to help out. So we
Yeah.
spent almost every weekend at the nurseries riding around in the carts. We had to go come home from school and weed patches of the garden. We cheated like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
We just turn over soil so the weeds would be underneath.
Right.
My parents knew, but I mean, technically it's working.
Yeah.
And we ate out of the garden every day. We were washing vegetables underneath the tap, right? And eating fresh carrots and things like that. So we didn't know how lucky we were. And then fast forward to, I was living up in Cowichan Valley. I was going to school for business. I ended up pregnant. My husband back then and I were up there, and the gal that was living in the same building as us, she got pregnant a month and a half earlier. So the maternity period was spent in the gardens, like the kids running around in diapers or not, and just gardening again. And I just fell back in love with it. So when we moved
Hmm.
back to Victoria, and I was slinging, coffee as a barista, singing songs at like 5 a.m. in the morning. I had a regular who said to me, you love gardening. Why don't you go to the Horticulture Center of the Pacific? So I totally pivoted and took my, entrepreneurial spirit into that realm. I'd already had a business education background, which most didn't. And, halfway through the schooling year, I had opened a business and was kind of getting moving. And that's when Inventing Eden started. And then
Totally.
as with Inventing Eden, I just sort of like was out there gardening and taking care of gardens. And I started renovating gardens. Before you know it, I realized I needed to move faster. So I just started making connections with trades and was building gardens and renovating gardens. And so the rest is kind of history. Like
Yeah. It's so crazy being an entrepreneur. I think there's definitely a certain level of crazy that we got to have in order to do what we
100%,
do.
100%. There's that like sort of no shame thing almost going forward, right? And you really have to have that spirit in this industry, especially because it's a lot of learning by making mistakes.
Yep.
especially, if you start the horticultural path and you're not actually getting a business path and you're not learning finances and quadratics and bookkeeping and all that jazz, then you're learning really the hard way. And that was one of my concerns in my hort education is they didn't actually teach that. So I was really blessed that I had that background already.
I
Not that I
often,
was great at it. I
yeah,
mean, still took me a long time through mistakes,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
There's something about that, and I am gonna get to that in a little bit too, that one of your words of advice is, allow mistakes to happen and give them space to, you know what? Like we learn by making mistakes. If everything is perfect and everything is smooth sailing, we're not growing. We're not
Absolutely.
learning. We're not improving, right?
That's right. You need to
So,
be able to have a circle around you that's going to allow you to do that. So I think,
absolutely.
I know we'll speak to this later, but it can be really complicated and very difficult. I did notice that the West Coast's a little bit more advanced than your side of the world with women in trades. So,
We are gonna dig into that too, for
well, I
sure.
mean, so I was a pioneer in my time,
Hmm.
and it is still, especially in my role now, it's still predominantly male.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of humility,
absolutely.
right?
So we have a lot of meat and potatoes that we're gonna be digging into. But before we do that, I want to know, what are you drinking?
Oh, that's so awesome. So I know your focus is beer, and I recognize that you're not like strict to that.
Not at
I
all.
thought I would stick to it. So I loved beer growing up, but beer doesn't love me. So
Oh
I'm
no.
allergic to it. So I have to be really mindful. Now, I think people need to remember, like, unless you have like a really strong allergy, those of us that have like a mild allergy to beer, like you can still drink Corona, Heineken. Bud is a rice beer. So today I don't even know I'm cheating. I just pulled whatever was in the fridge out. So I've just got a Pilsner. But when I was a kid, my parents used to love drinking clammies. So they're called something different everywhere. And Clamato, I think Canadians need to realize, is like really a Canadian beverage.
Oh,
Um, but it was basically beer and Clamato, any beer and mixed with Clamato, and you can mix it at whatever, ratio you want. I
yeah.
loved it so much that when my parents would let me take sips, that they had to develop like a club soda and Clamato so that I could keep drinking it. So I still love it.
Huh.
When I started going to Mexico, which is a place that I love very much, they serve a michelada, which a lot of people will know is actually beer served with the mixings of Caesar, but just in beer, but not Clamato. And then they have something called a chelada, which is essentially like the makings of a Caesar, but it's beer and the mixings of a Caesar. Some of them call it a ojo rojo. And then, yeah, it's different depending on where you go. Um, and then the best thing ever is that Budweiser has actually come out with a chelada. I thought I had some stashed in the house because when it comes out every summer, I like fill a room full of it. I love it so much. It's very refreshing. It's just, I can
Okay.
drink them so fast. So it's just a cocktail and I love it. And it's very summery and fun.
Yeah,
So
there's something about
any,
sorry, go ahead.
you can mix it with any beer.
Okay. I don't know. I drank some really weird beers.
Yeah,
So
one of my
maybe,
favorite beers to mix Clamato into is actually like a super dark lager,
oh,
really thick. I really like that, but that's, personal taste.
yeah. I've got one of the weirdos that I don't always partake on the show because I did eat today, so it should be
Oh,
fine. But this is like almost a 12% beer,
oh,
which is pretty high. But this is Space Age Sunshine Orange Creamsicle by Flying Monkeys here in Barrie, Ontario. And the can art is
yeah.
like
Oh,
this
can art
space
is out of this
bunny.
world. It makes me so frustrated that I can't drink beer because it's so beautiful.
It's on my bucket list to design a beer can. Like, I
Yeah,
think that would be so cool to.
you will do that.
So, if anybody's listening and can hook me up on this opportunity, I would love to do that.
Get
So
on it.
random,
Yeah, you can do it out here. Yeah,
right?
well,
Hmm.
craft beer out here is just so cool.
Um, so something you said earlier, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit, is this concept of women in landscaping. So for those who don't know, here in Ontario, through Landscape Ontario, it's actually not through Landscape Ontario, but Landscape Ontario supports it, is that there is this group called Women in Landscaping. And it is a networking event. It is a very pro-women supporting women group, and it's really designed for women supporting other women who are in specifically the landscape trades. So it's not just women in trades, it's women in landscaping. And I really liked your point on the pre-interview questionnaire, Danae. Just you really kind of drive it home with this idea that if we focus on the fact that we're different, then aren't we just kind of perpetuating the fact that we're different? And actually, it's a fact, but it's also an, an untruth, if you will. We're different, but we're also so similar.
Mhm.
It's not a, you can probably explain it better than I can.
It's a yin and yang, and that's how I feel about it in general. So, if you follow me on Instagram or you may follow me on Instagram in the future, you'll notice every International Women's Day, obviously I'm going to cheer on, women out there, doing their due. And yeah, and I agree, they haven't always been able to. So we have come a long way for
Hmm.
sure. There's a lot for us to offer. And so our silence, like we were sort of silenced, or maybe not intentionally, I don't want to say it that way, but
Yep.
maybe now we're more, we feel less vulnerable and more able, more willing to push out and speak our minds. And we don't mind being judged so much anymore, right? So that has really, we've really come a long way in that way.
Hmm.
I think where I cringe a little bit is, and it's just because I'm different. It's just because I didn't have that, right? Like I had to break out there before it was a
Yeah.
thing. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I do have a harder time where we focus so much on it that like if it feels like we're kind of, I don't want to say like we're hiding behind it or whatever. I went to the Women in Landscapes and I was totally blown away. I thought it was wonderful. It was such an incredible peer group. I think there's we're all different personally and individually, and some of
Hmm.
us need that. We need to have that posse. Maybe we don't have that around us. And so we need to have that extra posse around us. The
Right.
enthusiasm in that room was just unbelievable.
Hmm.
Um, where it gets me and where I'm a little bit uncomfortable is sort of like when it gets all, I don't want to say feelings because that's like very feminine thing, right? But where we
Yeah.
start talking, we bring out the depth, and that's where like I try to actually push that depth down a little bit when I'm out in the field because just in trades
Oh,
in general, we're not focused on that.
right.
We're connecting on a commonality, right? We're connecting on a common goal. Maybe we're connecting on a common skill or a project that we're working on.
Yep.
Maybe we're connecting on, leaning in on one another's skills that we don't have. Like, it's really truthfully like when you're a general contractor or a designer, you're relying on what someone can do that you cannot to
Right.
your vision, right? And
Yep.
so it kind of just to full circle it back and bring it back, you know, I think we need to focus more on what we bring to the table and less
Hmm.
our genders. However, like you said, like you have to, there's got to be it, and
Yep.
I
I
don't
hear
know.
you. I
I just
really,
find people.
yeah, and I love having like hearing your, I would say new or fresh take on it. I struggle with it only because I don't see gender the way that most people do.
Mm,
I have a lot of friends who are non-conforming gender roles or identify as something other than the gender they were born with. And I don't
mm.
even think about it. So when I meet new people, I see them as, what is your personality or what are you bringing to the table? I'm not really thinking about gender. And so
Yeah.
it sometimes takes me
But
back
that's
that I'm like,
because of
oh,
our age and our era, right? Like we need to remember
yeah,
there's a lot of incredible heroes out there that are our mentors, and they weren't raised in a time that's open, and it's a difficult pill to swallow. So that's why
definitely.
there are these, groups that are needed and a
Yep.
voice that's needed and whatnot. But it's just not something I subscribe to. Doesn't mean
Right.
I'm not out there. I'm definitely like
Hmm.
on the West Coast, we have a women in trades program here.
Yep.
They have different chapters all over, and they're unbelievable. And the stuff that I see on the Facebook groups from these women in trades, like these women supporting each other in a way that I'm sorry, you just don't see it the same way when you're on the same sort of like non-women focused, right? I don't want to say
Right.
because poor males, they get nothing. We have all these like,
Yep.
oh, women, pro gay rights, pro this, pro that. Who's pro menning? They don't get to
Yep.
do it anymore. I think that's crap. So I think, ooh,
You can
crap's
say
the
crap.
least
It's
I can
okay.
say, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about my own opinions. This is my own opinion, and I respectfully, I'm always willing to hear someone else's, and I think
Yeah.
that that's really, really important. So I think it's fantastic, what that woman in landscapes is doing. We don't have a woman in landscapes here. Actually, on the West Coast, frankly, there's very little focus on landscaping. There's a small
Right.
group up North Island that I just love. Those gals have been getting together and I keep missing it. And so I'm hoping that they really grow that. And then of course you've heard me talk about wanting to grow something a little stronger on the West Coast that's a little bit like the Congress, but not on the same scale. Holy cow.
I cannot wait to see what you do out there. And when you do it, I will be getting a ticket and
Will
I will be
be.
coming through those doors. You
You'll be
betcha.
emceeing, girl.
Okay, you call
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Um, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I want to talk to you about. Um, what am I looking here? So some of the things, I mean, we both do design, we do installation, softscape, general contracting, right? So we're working with a number of different contractors. And so I've had, because of your presentation a couple of years ago and on your website, I've been able to see some of the pictures of the designs and the work that you do. Do you have a specific style yourself as a designer? I mean, I'm looking at your beautiful studio behind you, which we could talk about in a second. But for you personally, like, is there a garden style that really speaks to you that,
Mean, I'm a new perennialist at heart for sure. That's one of the things that I can't shake, and I have to be very careful because not every client is. I can often, add an element of it in a garden. I
and
can
sorry,
sell
that term that you said too is new perennialist?
new
Perennialist.
perennialism. So if like Pete Rudolph
Oh,
and
yes.
you know Niall, like those guys, like it's really just naturalizing perennials, but blocking them and then working with the textures and the forms to go together. The other benefit of
Right.
these, like it's a strict, they're all pollinator gardens. So you have that opportunity as well. And then there's the seasonal aspect whereby each season, normally we would cut a perennial down because it's dying or dead, right? You leave
Yep.
it because you want, the frosts are coming and you want that, right? Like the colors changing, it's
Hmm.
different tones, right? So you're getting the golds or the grassies or the hay look. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it's natural, but contrived, right? There's a
Yeah.
certain commonality there.
It's funny, even just hearing you describe that, I'm like in a dream
And
state, like just
yeah,
imagining walking through these spaces,
yeah,
like there's just
absolutely.
something so romantic about them, I think.
Yeah, and I'm so gonna pull out this card right now because I can, because I'm gonna be
Oh no, you're
really
gonna be that
scared. But
person. Okay, lay it on me.
one of
What do you
the
got?
things that upset me that I was a little surprised about in the Awards of Excellence was the incredible lack of plant focus in the awarded.
Ding, 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 ding.
So let's see that change. And I spoke to everybody about it. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I don't think you and I keep our opinions very quiet.
No, and
That's
I
one
just
thing we have in
I
common.
would challenge, like, if we're going to be ecologists and we're going to talk about being plant driven, then that should be, at least it could be its own
Yep,
category, right?
I
I
thought the
did
exact
there's a
same
lot of
thing.
hardscape focus. I mean, we are outdoor living space designers. That's what our company is.
Yep,
Right? We're custom residential outdoor living space designers. We're
right,
not, I don't actually call us landscape designers. It's just that we're plant driven. So we'll put together all of that and then we pull it together by the transition into natural spaces.
right.
So yeah,
And never,
so back to the question, yeah, new perennialism, but I mean we do it all, right? It's not our Eden, it's our clients, so it's their vision.
yep.
um you know so I guess the
Um,
question, what don't you do?
what don't you do? Oh, do you have an answer for that one? What don't you do?
I don't know if I have an answer for that one, truthfully.
I
I don't,
I've also I've actually been asked that personally, and I would say that the one thing I don't like to do is the highly contrived, ultra modern, contemporary, and I do it.
I would agree with you.
but I don't enjoy it.
Yeah,
And if I do it, you can bet that I'm going to try and sneak some native perennials in there
yeah.
in a formal way.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah.
Contemporary is just blocking, right?
Yep.
Strips blocking. And I agree with you. I'm trying to challenge myself on that one though, because as long as the motivation is right,
Yep.
I will do anything. As long as I can encourage someone to get outside and experience that,
Absolutely.
touch that, use that, whatever. If I can turn a non-gardener into a gardener or a
Right.
person that, really wants to get out and appreciate the sensory aspect of gardening or just being in the space,
Yep.
I'll do whatever.
I recently attended a webinar by Play England, and they had Adam Beinenstock on there as a guest speaker. You're familiar with his work, Beinenstock Playgrounds.
Mhm.
And in his webinar, he mentioned this thing about the senses. So it's just interesting that you mention, the bringing the senses into the garden and into the design. Because from this webinar, Adam mentioned that there's this point where he asked everybody, I want you to think of your earliest favorite memory. Everybody just take a second. What is your favorite earliest childhood memory? And then he said, okay, come back to me. Now I can almost put money on it that that memory will have touched upon at least five of your senses. Maybe four, but probably five. And I thought it was so powerful
Mhm.
because the senses have a way of getting into your brain and making memories more powerful that they last longer and they have
Absolutely.
this impact on you,
Mhm.
right? And as soon as I heard that, I mean, I've always known that the senses are important as a designer. Of course they are. But if we can really bring that back, I think there's a whole new level that we can be bringing to our client spaces.
That's going to require a lot more focus on therapeutic horticulture and horticulture
Yep.
things. So, which you may or may not know is something that I also have in my background. And so I'm a member of the CHDA. I've sort of paused my certification process, but I'm still an advocate,
Hmm.
strong advocate, and I do incorporate it in every single one of my designs. So that, touching on what you're saying, right, is like when you're working with clients, elderly clients, or clients with dementia or memory issue or whatever, the best thing to be doing with them is working in horticulture because they all have memories of fragrances.
Hmm.
Maybe their grandparents were gardeners, maybe they were gardeners, maybe the wife was gardener, maybe, there's always that. And so that, you can work on mobility issues, you can, work on motor sensors and there's just so many things that you can do with horticulture. And so the senses are key. They're
Hmm.
key. So yeah, so we do that a lot. And if you are doing your due diligence when you're interviewing your clients, one of the things you're going to ask them about is like, what are their favorite things? What do they want to see? I think still, I don't know, I have to check the stats, but like one of the you know, highest called out rated landscapes for people is still like savanna, like basically like grasses,
Hmm.
anything that's capturing grasses, light and movement of wind and the sound and the rustle, like all those senses that come from that specific
It's
form
so
of
interesting.
landscape. I know, it's beautiful. It's true. It's like I can't tell you how many times I've got all the videos on my phone of like that
Moving
specific
grass. Yeah.
silly. Yeah.
Um, it reminds me talking about different landscapes and the effects that these landscapes have on us, right? And on our psyche. That's going to be a whole, I'm going to have you on the show again because garden therapy and horticultural therapy is one
Yeah.
of the areas that I'm
Well, it started
definitely
out there,
starting
right? It
to,
started in Guelph, right? So in
like, it's just
Canada.
such an incredible concept and there's so much to learn.
Yeah,
But the
absolutely.
book, are you familiar with The Inward Garden by Julie Moore Maservi?
No.
So in this book, she talks about seven different archetypes. So seven different types of landscapes that um, take us back to our childhood. At a time of innocence, but also a time where we felt like we could play and we could be ourselves and we could explore, but we
Hmm.
were also felt safe.
All right.
And
Give me
bringing
that title.
the inward garden.
by
You
Julie
forgot
Moore
it.
Maservi. It is so good. I will send you a link. I
Oh,
don't think
cool.
it's being published anymore, but you can find used copies. I use thriftbooks.com all the
Cool.
time.
I've never heard of that before, so I'll write that down too.
Yeah, fantastic book. It was introduced to me first year at Fanshawe College by one of my instructors, and I became obsessed with the book. I think I've read it 4 or 5
Big fan of
times.
Fanshawe College. Big
Fanshawe
fan.
College, woot
Big
woot!
fan.
Giving you a shout
And we
out
have some of the best students ever for hiring.
for horticulture and landscape design. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
All right.
Um,
What are we going to talk about next, girl?
so I want to talk about something about, so, I mean, it's always hard for, I think, anybody, unless they're a um, arrogant ass, to toot our own horn. Okay. But I want to give you the opportunity to, because you've had a number of achievements and success. And um, one of the things, I mean, the fact that you're going on like 20 years in business, hello, epic.
Yeah.
Um, and that means that you started your business pre-COVID and
Mm.
carried your business through COVID.
COVID was the best thing ever for my business.
Do you know what? Mine too. I mean, I started mine in June of
Did you?
2020, but
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I started it right in the middle of the
Well,
pandemic.
you didn't know any better then. It's like,
Yeah,
that's good.
it was like, well, if not now, then when? Nobody's hiring, so now's the
Well, I
perfect time.
started my business pre the fall of 2008. So, and
Oh
in
my
2008,
gosh.
every trade left town and went to work in the oil patches. So I've had it a couple times over for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you were also parenting and step parenting while owning a business.
Right. And I actually took a hiatus from my business when I went skiing and almost lost my leg.
Oh my
And
gosh,
I shifted,
Danée.
and I shifted. And as I was coming out, that's when I went to school and did my therapeutic horticulture. And then, actually, no, I did it before. And then I used my therapeutic horticulture on myself during my recovery, well, as I was laying, like I was stuck in bed, right?
Oh my
So
gosh.
I would like once a week I would get in the wheelchair that we'd rented and take a cab to this amazing florist shop called Harry's Flowers here in Oak Bay. And I would fill the cab with like all these different flowers. And then I would make bouquets.
Hmm.
And then I would write about it. I would blog about it. I had a blog called Biophilia back then. And then as they would die away, because I was stuck in the room, right? So I would really notice, then I would take them all apart, build them all again, put them all together, and got myself through that. So, but COVID is actually it I was lucky because I had a project already moving forward. And so but what was difficult was that rather than waiting to find out who was going to cancel their future projects,
Hmm.
I sent out an email blast to all my clients and I made my comment trying very hard not to use any of the catchphrases that were out there. And I said, likely a lot of you are having to sort of recalibrate and discuss, like decide where your investments need to be because we have this, level of uncertainty. And a lot of those clients, right, they're doing well for themselves, but where's their money invested in their business as well? So I lost about four really great projects, unfortunately, because I gave them the option of stepping out. And I
Yep.
felt like that was a really smart move. Also for me, because it allowed me to plan forward, right?
Yep.
Um, and then I did the project that I did. And what was difficult on was like the labor issues and the contractors that would have to, deal with the PPE and like the washing stations and all the things, right? But we're outside.
Hmm.
So, a lot of things didn't really relate to us. Um, and on the West Coast, we don't have the same reliance as, say, our friends in the interior of BC, where we rely heavily on bringing in sort of our Mexican friends and so on for our businesses the way the nurseries do. So we didn't get impacted in that same way. But where the impacts come, they're coming now. And I think
Hmm.
you guys over in Ontario, you felt that last year. And I think the
Yeah.
West Coasters are going to feel that this year. But yeah, you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it have a way of doing that
Doesn't it?
every time?
I'm
It's
doing
like,
great now.
yep. And you
Yeah.
know what? Me too. So cheers to you all the way from
Yeah,
Ontario. Cheers with your,
absolutely.
so that's a michelada or a chelada? I'm trying to,
It's a Chelada. Today's a
chelada.
Chelada. Michelada has no clamato.
Okay.
Kind of a brown soupy mess.
Brown soupy mess.
They're not my favorite. I like the tomato, right? And I'm cheating too because we have we do a lot of canning in our house, so we've got these
Oh,
pickled
nice.
asparagus. Yeah.
Oh, I love pickled asparagus. I
You
mean, I
wouldn't
just
get
love
that before.
pickles.
Mm,
So I'm one of
hmm
those people.
hmm hmm
Um, so there are so many other things that I could talk and ask you about, but we are running out of time. But before I let you go, I'm going to end with a couple of things. One thing is, I know both of us have had something you mentioned earlier is having that support system to allow us to try things, to grow, to run our business, right? And we have that support, but I know we've also both had a number of mentors that have really changed things for us. And I want to give you the opportunity to give a shout out to a couple of your mentors.
So I've got two super great mentors, and I decided I would choose one of my West Coasters and one of my Ontarioites. And so,
Nice.
big ups to the woman we all love and adore, Beth Edney. I met Beth when I was studying Dynaescape. She was my teacher and my mentor. And at a time where definitely if you've seen any of my talks, you know that I actually don't do the drafting in our studio. I just really just don't have the time to do it. So I'm a creative director and I have designers work underneath me and then I do red lines, yada, yada, yada. I can draft on paper,
Yep.
but not on the computer. But Beth was my teacher. And it was a place of a lot of vulnerability. And Beth saw something in me that maybe I didn't see, or maybe I just take for granted because
Mm-hmm.
very genuine. And she really loved my spunk and energy. And she's since put me in touch with a lot of folks and, given me an opportunity to go out there and advocate or inspire or just participate, have my voice be a part of the dialogue. And she's pushed me to come and speak at Landscape Ontario Congress at the Designers Conference. I hate speaking. That speech that you saw, I blacked out 30 seconds of it. I completely blacked out. Nobody knew. I don't know how, but it's
Well,
not
it
my
was
favorite.
great.
I think because the slides broke, and this last one, the slides actually I found hindered me. So next year, I've been invited back again next year for a longer workshop. I think it'll be a
Nice.
net workshop.
Thank
And
goodness, because
yeah,
it's
thank goodness. So
so good.
yeah, I think it'll be really, really fun, very
Yeah.
engaged, very dynamic. And I'll just mic myself up here. But Beth has encouraged me to do that. And I never would have said yes if it wasn't for her. And when I come out and see her, God, she's just a whirlwind of inspiration. And then my other mentor, likewise, her name's Anne Stefanik. She is a baller and now a new mom, and she runs, one of the top web development firms in North America. They're out of the Bay Area, but she's here, and she has a completely remote studio. I think she might be up to 50 or more
Hmm.
employees now. And I worked there. A long time ago. That was my little hiatus. So basically, like I broke my leg, I ended my marriage, I made a big shift, I put horticulture away for a little while, and then I went into project management in that world, which was really brave when I look
Hmm.
back at it. And she was my employer and also my landlord. And she's my best friend now, and she just blows me away. Like anytime I'm struggling in business or as an employer, like I hate being a boss. I
Yeah.
would just want to be a mentor. I don't want to have to be the disciplinary and the person who's paying. And like
Right.
it can be very complicated to be an employer, but Anne is definitely a mentor for me in that way. I think she just got voted actually by a group of her professional peers as like one of the best, most inspirational, bosses. Like she's incredible. Yeah. I gotta introduce you, come this way and I'll introduce you to her.
Awesome. I will put it to the list.
Yeah. And I do want to say I am an LO member. The reason that I am an LO member, even though it doesn't really give me the same benefits that it would someone there, is because the community in Ontario, as much as I'm sure it's quite competitive and I am a non-threat, they're still very united, kind. They rally together. They share each other's pains and each other's successes. They
Hmm.
cheer each other on. I'm sure there's a little vulnerability in all of it, and maybe,
Yeah.
it can drive a little bit of fear or whatever, but there is a community out there that we don't have here. And so I will always venture out every year that direction so that I can feel that. It fills me up. I get so drained by the winter. And
Yeah.
then I go and I kind of dread going because I'm nervous about it. But I go and I get that and I come back invigorated and full of life and just so inspired. So thank
It
you.
is.
You
It,
know,
yeah. Thank you, LO, for me too. I
thank
know
you,
that
Ello, for bringing that together. Some real champions.
absolutely. And I mean, I would not even be here. Not just podcasting, because the idea for this whole thing for the podcast came out at Landscape Congress last year.
Ah,
But
just
then
fine
also
here.
like when I found employment, th as a student member. So I was a Fanshawe College student. I had a student membership with Landscape Ontario. I attended all the events. I attended all the peer-to-peer workshops. I went through 3 different employers before COVID.
Wow.
And then it was Landscape Ontario, like the network and the friends that I had made there that really encouraged me to start my own business.
Yeah, they're real industry pushers, and I think that's really important is we need to incubate our talent and find places for them because there's a right fit for everybody,
Yep.
a right seat for everybody. And I think the industry is, you know, it's incredible there. And it should be that way here. It's not. Probably the nail that sticks out gets hammered is what a friend told me once, and it's so true. But yeah, I really admire what they're doing out there. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And lastly, I always am interested in what people are reading or what books they would recommend.
Oh,
And
what did I say?
you list a couple.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, Traction, I think we've mentioned on the podcast before, The Profit First for Contractors is another
Oh,
one that we have. I have it on my shelf right here. If you don't
haven't been
have it,
serious.
it's one to get. But there was
100%.
3 books that you mentioned that
Oh,
I
they were more like,
actually don't recognize them. So the one
so
you
I,
mentioned was A New Earth.
yeah, so that's Eckhart Tolle,
Okay.
which is my world.
Yep.
You have to read the sentences a few times over sometimes because he loves to be super wordy.
Oh, great,
But
great.
I have a copy and it's like destroyed, and there are so many underlines and notes to myself that I should read it again. That's
Okay.
a fantastic one. And then what else did I mention?
The Laws of Spirit.
That's another life changer. Um, there's not much I can say about that except that it basically you follow a sage through the forest and the sage presents these laws. There's probably 10.
Yep.
And they're very simplistic laws. So if anybody's like read the Toltecs and things like that, like it's very similar to something
Yep.
like that. And basically, it's perspective. It's a way of looking at things and simplifying things so that they're not such a challenge. They make things a little
Huh.
more. It's a new way of looking at things. And I think that that's really important because you can get really caught up owning businesses and struggling through economics and whatnot
Uh-huh.
to put just into that perspective again, I think. And both of those books do that.
Yeah, having to wear all the hats as an entrepreneur, right? It's hard to not get
Or
overwhelmed
let go of
sometimes.
some of the hats as an entrepreneur, which is what I'm doing right now. And we didn't get to talk about that, right? Like those
Ah,
struggles and growth, right? But
yeah. And
another
like
time,
delegating and finding other people to do it and having that trust
the trust
to,
with your baby, your empire. Yeah.
yeah, that would be hard for me too. And the last book, so I don't want to cut you off, but the last book you mentioned was Rising Strong.
Mm.
Um,
Okay, so Brené Brown. So
oh,
there's
okay, it is a
no
Brené
feminist
Brown
in
book.
me everywhere, but yeah, but she's not a feminist, right? She's a baller. Brené Brown,
Um,
Rising Strong. Very good book. All of her books
Rising
are very good.
Strong. Okay, yeah, because I have two. The one that I have is the Gifts of Imperfection, which I have
Mhm,
not yet read.
mhm.
And the other one I think my husband is borrowing, and I can't think of what it's called
Awesome.
right now, but it's so good.
Forever
Anyway,
before. Yeah.
Danée, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on
Yeah,
the
so
show.
easy.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It's funny the world of this post-COVID. It makes it so easy for us to connect. You're out in British Columbia, I'm in Ontario, and here we are doing this crazy thing together. So
Yep.
really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just love spending time with you and love spending time with my community passively, right? So anytime.
Awesome. Well, I will see you around. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, baby.
That concludes this week's episode, hosted by me, Heather Gerard at My Landscape Artist. Now, before you go, here's some info about our sponsor, ext.tech. In today's fast-paced world, your landscaping business needs modern solutions to keep up with the change. That's where EXT comes in. EXT is revolutionizing the way you manage projects and streamlines your landscaping, snow removal, and construction operations. Instead of juggling 5 different software packages, endless spreadsheets, losing track of leads, and missing out on potential sales, you could be leveraging AI job routing, client management, and financial insights with a modern mobile app that employees love to use. With EXT's flat rate pricing, you'll never be caught off guard. If you're ready to revolutionize and grow your landscaping business, visit ext.tech today to learn more. And for additional savings, use the code HOPS10 at checkout, or just tell them that Heather sent you. See you next week for another episode of Hops and Hedges.